Again, it's a rich thing.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to learn how to analyze balance sheets of companies in Python. So let us get right into it. All right, so in Neural 9, we already talk a lot about stocks and cryptocurrencies, about analysis, about prediction, about visualization, but we never really talk about anything that could be considered value investing. So where you actually look at the company behind the stock ticker symbol. And chances are that if you want to invest in a company, you're not just interested in basing all of your decisions on open, high, low, close, and volume. Maybe you also want to know, okay, how much assets does this company have? What type of assets? How much liabilities? What type of liabilities? Cash and so on. You want to know what is in the balance sheet. And for this, we cannot just use the Yahoo Finance API, because if we just use Yahoo Finance, we can get open, high, low, close, maybe some key statistics if we get the right library. But in today's video, I want to show you how you can actually analyze balance sheets in Python, because this is a fundamental part of value investing. However, as always, I want to mention here that this video is not investing advice. I'm not certified in any way to give any investment advice. I'm just a programmer. I'm just a computer scientist. Don't take any advice from me when it comes to finance. This is purely programming advice. So I'm just showing you how to get that data in a Pythonic way. So don't listen to me when it comes to investing, finance, or anything like that, just to make that clear as a disclaimer here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to actually get an API key for some source of information. Now, you can go online and look for a source that fits your ideals the best, but I chose for this video the financialmodelingprep.com API. So you just go to financialmodelingprep.com/developer/docs, or you can just Google financial modeling prep API, and then you get to this page here, and then you click on get my API key here. And I'm not going to go with you through that process because it's very trivial, and you're going to see my API key, which I'm not willing to show here in this video. So what you do is you just sign in, you make an account, you get an API key. That is it. That's all you need to do. It is not complicated. This is everything. Now, once you have that API key, if you're not recording like I'm doing it, you can just paste it into the code directly if you want to. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to hide it, you can also hide it in a text file the way I did it. I'm going to show you how to load it later on. The important thing is that on this website, we can get all sorts of information about companies, so balance sheets, financial statements, and so on. But we need to specify the API key in the URL. So what we usually do is we say financialmodelingprep.com/API/v3/balance sheet statement/ and then company, and then we provide certain parameters, for example, limit for the time frame, and API key. So I'm not going to actually show you the URLs that I'm using because those contain the API key, even though this is not sensitive data here. But this is how we do it. So we're going to use Python in order to send requests to those URLs, and then we're going to get JSON files, and from those JSON files, or from those dictionaries, you could say, we're going to just get the information that we're interested in. All right, so let us get started. For this video, we're not going to use any special library, so we're not going to use a library of that API. We're just going to use requests. You can also use urllib3 if you want to, but requests is a little bit more practical. So I think request still needs to be installed. I'm not sure, but if you don't have it, just say pip install requests, but that's just a basic HTTP request module. So this is not something that belongs to the API. Let me just turn off my fan here. I hope you don't hear any noises. It's pretty hot right now. So let us get started by importing requests. And we're also going to import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. Now this is optional. This is not related to the balance sheet data gathering. This is just for one thing that I want to do later on here to visualize certain things. But the first thing we want to have is we want to have the API key in the script. So what we're going to do is we're going to say API key equals, and we're going to open the file where the API key is stored. Now, as I said, if you don't want to hide it, you can just use it as a string here. You don't have to open it. But since I'm recording here, I don't want to show the key, so I'm going to open it from a file. And the file is called API key in my case. API key We're going to open it up in reading mode, and we're going to read all of the content. This is going to be the API key. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say the company that we're interested in. We're going to specify a variable with the company that we're interested in. So let's say we are interested in the balance sheets of Facebook. So Facebook is going to be the company, and the time horizon, the years, are going to be 2 years. We're interested in 2 years of data here. So in order to get the balance sheet, what we're going to do is we're going to say balance sheet equals request.get, and now we have to craft this URL. So we're going to say HTTP, or actually HTTPS, and of course we're going to do that in an F string here. So HTTPS and then //financialmodelingprep.com. Let me just see if I'm not blocking the code here. No, I'm not blocking the code. That is great. So financialmodelingprep.com /API/v3/balance sheet statement. This is the URL. And now we need to specify the company. So slash and the company that we have chosen, in this case, Facebook. And then question mark, limit is going to be years. So in our case, 2. And API key is going to be API key. So here we don't have underscore, we just say API key. This is what we need to do in order to load the balance sheet. Let me just see if this works. So what we can do here is we can go ahead and say print balance sheet.json, and we should be able to see that we have loaded the data into our script. As you can see here, we have date, we have a bunch of different things here, short-term debt, tax payables, deferred revenue, and so on. So we have the balance sheet loaded in the script here, which is great. So we're now going to say balance sheet equals balance sheet.json. And now we can go ahead and just query for specific data. So we want to know, for example, Facebook, what is the total current assets value? So we want to know what are the total current assets of the Facebook company as of right now. So what we need to do in order to do that is we need to say total current assets, or whatever you want to name it, equals balance sheet. Now it's important to specify an index. So index 0 is the most recent data that we have. So maybe we're going to have data for 2020, for 2019, 2018, maybe even quarterly. And what we want to have is we want to have the most recent one. Index 1 would be the second most recent one, and so on. So we're going to take the most recent value, and we're going to specify that we're interested in the value to the key total current assets. By the way, if you don't know what to look for, of course, just look into the JSON. I think we should even be able, I'm not sure, if we say balance sheet.keys, I'm not sure if we can treat it like a dictionary, to be honest. I actually doubt it, but maybe this works. No, we don't have keys, but maybe if I say dictionary of balance sheet keys, does that work? No, it also doesn't work. However, what definitely works is you can just print the whole balance sheet object here. And by printing it, you can see what the individual things are named. So if I run this now, we're going to get all the data. But of course, you can also look at the keys. Oh, actually, I know why it doesn't work. We need to say 0 keys, like that. Does it work then? There you go. Dictionary keys. Here you have all the keys. You have inventory, other current assets, goodwill, intangible assets, and so on. So you have all the keys that you can query here. So we're going to delete that now, and we're going to say, okay, print total current assets of company. Of course, it's important that you specify the ticker symbol here. So you can Google Facebook ticker symbol or Tesla ticker symbol if you don't know it. And then we're going to say it is total current assets. There you go. So if we now run this, you can see total current assets of Facebook, that. Now this is not formatted pretty well, so we're going to use the thousand separator, and we do it by just specifying colon and comma. This is how we do it. There you go. Total current assets of Facebook. In this case, 75 billion US dollars. So this is what we can do here. And of course, we can do the same thing. We can just copy that and we can paste it here and say not assets, but liabilities. So actually, maybe I can do it like that. Assets, liabilities. Here it didn't work because it was case sensitive. Liabilities. And here as well. There you go. So liabilities of company, total current liabilities. And now we can run that. And we can see the value here. Now, what would other interesting values be? We have total debt, which is always very important. And we have cash and cash equivalents. And of course, we can calculate new values. So let's go ahead and say, okay, total debt is going to be balance sheet 0. Total debt. There you go. And then we're going to have cash and equivalents. They're going to be balance sheet 0. And this is actually called cash and cash equivalents. There you go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to just calculate the difference. So cash debt difference, which can be quite interesting. So we just say cash minus total debt. And then we can print cash debt difference is the cash debt difference. There you go. And if we run this now, we're going to see that Facebook is one of those very, very secure companies here. By the way, let me just format this again. We can see that this number is a positive for Facebook. So Facebook has a lot of cash and very little debt compared to that. If we change this to another company, I don't know, I'm going to pick a random one. Let's say Apple. I'm not sure if Apple maybe has the same values here. No, Apple has negative values, for example. But I think so will Microsoft. Those are just the balance sheet values here, right? So most companies are going to have negative values here, but Facebook is very good when it comes to cash. So I've always been a fan of Facebook when it comes to their balance sheets. But again, no investing advice here. So besides that, we can also query stuff like goodwill and intangible assets and so on. I'm not going to go through all those things because the main thing that you need to know is that you have all these values. You can query them. You can combine them. You can say, okay, I'm interested in this, this, and that. And if those things are not given, I'm not going to invest into that company. So for example, if that was a factor here, you could say, okay, if this difference is negative, I'm not going to invest in that company. Just a hypothetical thing that you could say. I'm not saying that you should say it, but you could say, okay, if cash is not more than total debt, I'm not going to invest in that company, or whatever you want to do. And in order to automate those decisions, you don't need to go through all the individual companies and say, okay, what's it for that company? What's it for that company? You can just go and say, okay, take the whole S&P 500 and apply my criteria to all these companies and give me the set of companies that fulfill my requirements. So you can say, I'm interested in a company where cash is more, or a company that has more cash than total debt. And then you can say, okay, I'm interested in a company that has this certain thing more than that certain thing, whatever you want to do. But you can just screen the individual stocks based on your balance sheet criteria. This is one thing that you can do with such a Python script. All right, so I'm going to show you one more calculation that might be interesting, and then we're going to look at how to actually query quarterly results. So let's say we're interested in the percentage of intangible assets in a company. So we want to know, okay, how much percent of the actual assets, of the total assets, are intangible assets. And if we're interested in that, we can just go ahead and say, okay, goodwill and intangibles equals balance sheet 0 and goodwill, and intangible assets. This is the key. And then we can say total assets equals balance sheet 0 total assets. And then we can say percentage intangible equals goodwill intangibles divided by total assets. Print percentage, I'm just going to format it like that, percentage intangible times 100, formatted to 2 decimal places. So this is just one thing that you might also be interested in. I'm just showing some examples so that you don't just query the data, but you actually see, okay, you can calculate stuff with that. So here would have 12%, 12.35%. This is just one thing that you could do. And now we're going to take a look at quarterly data. So what we're going to do here is we're going to delete all of this and up until here. And we're going to change the URL a little bit. So we're now going to add an additional keyword. So we have company and we have limit and we have API key, but we also have, we're going to insert right in the beginning here, period. So we're going to say period equals quarterly. So quarterly, and limit equals years and so on. So now we have the same balance sheet, but we have quarterly things. And what we can do here is, for example, we can say assets Q1. And now we can say, okay, this is basically balance sheet quarterly. And we can say 4 in this case because we're going backwards. Remember that the latest quarter is going to be 0. And the more you increase the index, the further you go back in time. So in this case, we're going to say quarter 2, 3, 4. And I think we have to use 1, 2, 3 here because otherwise 0, I think, is already 2021. Maybe we even have to go with 2, 3, 5. No, actually 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. And what do we actually want here? By the way, what the hell did I do here? This is, of course, not what we need to do. We need to say, we don't need to use quarterly here. We just say balance sheet 4, 3, 2, and 1. And in the end, we say total assets. Like that. So maybe total assets. There you go. So those are now the assets. And what we can do now is we can go ahead and say, okay, assets data is just a list. So asset Q1, asset Q2, asset Q3, asset Q4, and then assets data equals, we're going to scale that down because those values are going to be quite large. So we're going to say X divided by, or actually let's first start without the scaling. But once we have that, we're just going to say PLT bar. Now this is matplotlib. You need to install matplotlib if you want to use it. So pip install matplotlib. But besides that, we say PLT bar 1, 2, 3, and 4, and asset data. PLT title is going to be quarterly assets of company. PLT X label is going to be quarters. PLT Y label is going to be total assets. And PLT ticks, or actually PLT X ticks. So what we have on the X axis is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 will be mapped to Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And then finally plt.show. Now we're probably going to see a problem here with the scaling, or at least with the values, so we're going to scale them down. What do we have here? List index out of range. Why is that? Is this because of the limit? Because it actually worked in the code that I had prepared. So let's see if it changes if I change to 5. There you go. So here we can see it. We have the quarters. Again, in order to make sure that those are the actual quarters, you need to either know how much you have to go back in time. But remember that if we already have 2 quarters of 2021, we need to start counting from index 2, because otherwise we're going to also plot those two. But here you have Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 of Facebook. But you can see here those values are a little bit odd. So we're going to scale them, and we're going to say assets data equals X divided by a billion. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4X in assets data. And then we're going to say total assets in billion US dollars. There you go. So now you know, okay, 60 billion, 80 billion, and so on. This works. Alright, so that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.